On Tina Hinchley's dairy farm outside Cambridge, Wisconsin, COVID-19 hasn't stopped the daily routine of milking her cows.
There is a huge demand.
Historically, about 90% of the milk Hinchley and her family produces supplies Wisconsin's famous cheese industry, which, like almost everything in American life, has been upended by efforts to contain the spread of the coronavirus.
When the restaurants and the schools and the universities had to close down because of this pandemic, 70% of the milk that was being made into cheese ended up halting production.
Hinchley says it takes time for the food industry to adjust output to meet sudden shifts in consumer behavior, like a surge in demand for cheese portioned and packaged for supermarkets.
It's going to take time before there's a conversion from a 40-pound block of cheese into string cheese, or taking the little single-serving pats of butter and making it into more retail selections for the consumer.
Seldom does a consumer go to a grocery store and want to buy a 5-pound bag of shredded cheese. They want it maybe 1 pound at a time. And you can't just put 1 pound bags through a 5-pound line. Not possible. You have to have a different piece of equipment set up differently.
Mark Stevenson is the Director of Dairy Policy Analysis at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
We've had an industry that's had to shuffle a great deal to move product from where it was produced before to where it needs to be today.
Which is why some items may be unavailable, a problem Stevenson sees as temporary.
Mostly the amount of food that's been produced before is being produced now and is generally available to consumers.
Well, I think there's plenty of goods on farms.
Illinois farmer Brian Duncan, who spoke to VOA via Skype, says he has enough hogs to keep pork processors near him busy. A COVID-19 outbreak forced the closure of a South Dakota processing plant that handles about 5% of America's pork output. Even with meat processors cutting or suspending operations, Duncan doesn't foresee long-term shortages of meat products.
So I would still be confident suppliers or packers can keep things going well enough to keep the grocery stores stocked. And any disruptions are local in nature and short-term disruptions in just the ability to get the product through the system and into the grocery store.
The product is there. It's the packaging that's the hiccup right now. This is the bump in the chain.
If anything, Tina Hinchley says her dairy operation is producing too much at this point. While she isn't disposing of any milk, she and other dairy farmers across the country may have to reduce their herds to prevent flooding the marketplace with milk that can't be processed.
But we are learning a new way of doing things. Things are not the same as what they were just a month ago.
Before COVID-19, Americans spent more money eating out than eating in. Now, the numbers are reversed, and food suppliers are struggling to adjust. Kane, Farabaugh, VOA News, Cambridge, Wisconsin.